Hello, everyone, and welcome. Today, I'm so happy to have with me Ray Villalobos. Ray is an expert in AI. He's going to share with us a ton of stuff, very useful things about how to stay updated, how to have the right attitude towards what's the avalanche of things that are coming to us every day, new innovations, new data, new information. How do we deal about this? What is the right attitude to have to identify what is essential from what is not? And we'll talk also about a few tips on how to use AI currently and what we can do with AI actually, practically, to improve our personal life, our work, and probably many more. Thanks. Thanks for being with us, Ray. That's really an honor to have you with us. You're very famous on LinkedIn. You've done a lot of courses on quite technical courses, huh,
Mhm.
on AI. You are at the forefront of what is being done on the topic, and again, very happy to have you with us.
Thanks for having me here, Pascal. I really appreciate you and all the content that you create as well.
Thank you. So maybe the first thing you wanted to talk about was about how to have the right attitude, how to be. We are all submerged by information, data, news, new tools coming out every day. How do we manage that, and how do we keep up with all this? What are
So
your tips on
that's a
that? Yeah.
fantastic question. I think that one of the things that people may not know about me, they've probably seen some of the technical courses that I do, and they know that I'm in charge of teaching a lot of the cutting edge products that are coming out with AI. But my real primary function is to be aware of everything that's happening in the industry and be ready to produce content that really shows people the things that are crucial. So in order to do that, I have to absorb massive amounts of knowledge myself and be able to filter that knowledge to give it in a way that is easy for people to understand, and especially to understand what is the real relevant information. There's a lot of
Ray,
hype out
huh?
there. Sorry, go
Yes.
ahead.
Ray, you told me you're teaching at a university. Huh? You're helping the
Yes.
staff and
Yeah, so I both teach, I've done over 140 courses at LinkedIn Learning, and I'm also at Stanford teaching the staff how to use AI in a more practical way. And
that's great.
so, what's fantastic about that is I have both of the sort of technical kind of knowledge as well as the interaction with real people, which really serves to inform me about what are people concerned about, what do they want to know, what's really out of all these things that I see, what are people really passionate about? So all that becomes sort of data for me and things that I'm, um, synthesizing. And, I look through a lot of content. And I think that that's probably my number one skill, like just the ability to absorb a lot of stuff and then try to, take away the hype. And that's one of the things that we do at LinkedIn Learning is make sure that we are not necessarily trying to be, you know, th- perhaps the most clickable sort of news story of the day, but really be able to distill it in a way that lets people know whether or not this is something that they should know. And that's what I do, in teaching. Um, and I
Excellent.
really enjoy this.
And that's very relevant for us in the context of the irreplaceable methodology. You know, we have the three competencies of the future, being change ready, being human ready, but also being AI ready. And that's really about this AI ready competency that we want to hear from you, and your experience is really relevant to that. Uh, yeah. So in
Yeah,
a
it's really
short,
interesting.
how,
I think
yeah,
that
how,
I think
how
people are more adaptable than they think that they are, and they have probably been through this several times in their life if they're old enough. They've been through the internet, the birth of the internet, and the kind of explosion of the internet, and lots of other sort of things that they don't even realize. I remember, when Photoshop first came out, everybody thought Photoshop was just going to destroy all of these different things, talking about like film versus digital in the realm of movies. Those were all big changes and we made adjustments to it. So I'm really hopeful about the future. that the fact that human beings, as you say in your book, have all these irreplaceable sort of skills that computers are not able to
Mm,
duplicate. And I think that if you learn to embrace that and remember how you were able to adjust during the last revolution that you thought was life-changing,
mm,
and
mm.
what that did in terms of adding, additional opportunities for you to be successful, that's really when you thrive, when you learn, wow, there's a lot of opportunity with change. And if you're able to transform that, then you're going to be just not only ahead of everyone else, but you're going to be really thriving and enjoying what you're doing. Because I do think it's super exciting to me. And I think that when I teach people, and it's what I always get is a lot of ideas of things that they think that they can do with this new technology. That's, I think, exciting. Don't focus on all the sort of negative hype and the fact
Yes,
that some people think that we're all going to go away.
yes.
Just remember what it was like when you went through the last change, and perhaps you probably have a job that, think about spreadsheets. That wasn't a thing that was always available. I
Mm,
once
mm,
saw a video of the first time somebody invented a spreadsheet and they gave it to a person that did calculations manually. And
mm.
they, the people that did this presentation said that the gentleman pulled out his checkbook and he was trembling. And he said, How much do you want for this?" Because he realized that that's all he did all day. He did basically a manual spreadsheet. He would do numbers, vertical and horizontal. And then he would say, okay, what happens if the sales numbers change here? And then he would have to erase all the numbers vertically and horizontally. And he saw the future of how this was such a useful tool that's going to change not just how he did everything, but how everyone is going to work in the future. So think about your life before spreadsheets and after spreadsheets, or say before the word
Yes,
processor, after the word processor. We're so adaptable that I think
yes,
this is an exciting time for everyone.
yes. So it's about being open, being curious, and taking it the right way, because anyway, that's not the first time we see that, and it will work, no problem.
Absolutely. We're used to change, and we're
Yeah,
very good at,
yeah,
we're not necessarily good at figuring out what the change is going to be, but we're really adaptable, I think, as a species.
correct, correct. And I always say that that's the reason why we are still alive as a species.
Hmm.
We have this adaptability and resilience that made us survive for the last few hundreds of years,
Hmm.
on hundreds of thousands of years, sorry. And yeah, what are your other tips on not being overwhelmed by all the skipping the essential, skipping the non-essential? What are, for example, the advice that you give to the people you teach to at the university?
Yeah, I think that if you find something that AI can help you with immediately, you're going to start racking up quick wins that are going to get you more excited about what else could I do with this? As a developer, a lot of developers program because they find it frustrating to do repetitive work, right? So they create a complex application that will do something that would normally take them a long time to do and redo and redo. I think if you find something that AI can solve for you, right away, then you'll be a little bit more excited about it and seeing how useful it is. I told you earlier about a conversation I had with my dad, and I was introducing him to ChatGPT's voice feature and how we were able to have a conversation about him and how he grew up and what was, where I'm originally from, Panama. What was that country like when he was first born? What was that country like when he was 18? What are some of the changes that have happened? And we had a fantastic time just having a conversation with the computer. I did the same thing one time when I was traveling to Miami, as a matter of fact. And I had been reading a book that was based on a movie that I have watched. So Fahrenheit 451.
Mm,
I had seen like an old movie and I had read the book and I thought about, well, there's definitely a character here in the book that I don't recognize from the movie. So I had this whole half an hour conversation with the AI about, let's talk about the differences between the book and the movie. What happened to this character? And of course, the AI was able to talk to me about the differences, and that was a fantastic conversation. And I think that there's a lot of times there's a lot of ways that we haven't thought of how we can use AI, and we see new uses. So, for example, all the video that I edit now, I use AI to to work with to help me edit. And it saves me like 80% of my editing goes away because I'm using AI to do most of the basic sort of editing. You know,
Mm.
and if you can find the thing that's going to help you a lot, then I think you'll be excited to try something else. And that continuous sort of feeding of wins, I think it's going to really generate excitement. That's going to let you forget about, you know, all the negative hype, I think.
Excellent. Yeah, I love it. The advice that I usually give to people, so they might say, okay, but I have so many things that I would like to automate, or that I would like to, the help of AI to amplify my skills. And they tell me, so where should I start? That's the
Hmm.
big question. So I tell them, you can just write down a few of the key tasks that you perform regularly week after week. If you don't know which one, you go into your schedule and you will identify quickly in your agenda these tasks. For each of these tasks, identify how much time you spend on them and how much value or satisfaction you get from those. And you will basically rank all these. You
Hmm.
take those 20% of the of tasks that where you spend the most time and try to automate them. Because
Hmm.
usually when we spend time on those, it's tedious and we don't have satisfaction anyway. Repetitive, tedious, transactional, automate. Okay, so
Hmm.
find ways, and it's now quite easy. I mean, you just need to Google and how to automate this or how to automate report generation, data entry. I mean, all those email management. I mean, all those stuff that are very repetitive and transactional that no one likes to do. That's
Probably
the
my
first,
favorite thing to do
the
with
first, the
oh,
first
sorry.
bulk of things need to be automated. These
Hmm.
are these one 20% of those that take the longest in time.
Hmm.
And for those tasks that we want AI to help us be superhumans, so basically amplify our strengths,
Hmm.
think of those that the 20% that uh, are creating the highest value today, and try to identify how AI can help you get to the next level. So it can be, usually it's going to be uh, activities linked to creativity, to
Hmm.
connection with others, to critical thinking, to and those activities, again, Google, and you'll find ways to
Hmm.
improve those and to bring them to the next level so that you can bring even more value. So with the
So one of
first
the things,
with the
oh,
first
sorry, go
stuff,
ahead.
when you automate, you save time. So basically, this
Hmm.
time you can leverage it for education, for keeping yourself updated, to
Hmm.
spend more time with your teams, spend your time with your family, and so on. And for the other ones, you become superhumans because you amplify your skills.
So rewarding too. And one of the things that I love about AI is that I consider myself a great brainstormer. However, ChatGPT or any of these tools can give me a lot more ideas that I can come up with. So it's a great way to get started, you know, get your brain sort of thinking about a specific topic. So whenever I have to write an article, sometimes I'll say, let's talk about what I could do. Help me come up with a topic for something to write. That's a great sort of practical use. Or if I'm thinking of, you know, I don't do titles for any of my content anymore. So I worked at a newspaper for quite a while, and I learned that none of the writers write the titles of their articles in news, right? So we had a team of people, editors who would edit all their work, and then they would write all the titles because they knew how to do those.
Yeah.
That's the thing that AI can do perhaps better than you. And so it can help you get better at certain tasks by letting you see what makes sort of a eye-catching title, and anything that's creative in terms of coming up with a lot of ideas, or say that you're prompting for an image. A lot of times I kind of have an idea of what I want, but the actual detailed definition, like the paragraph long definition of the angle of the camera, the location, the background, the foreground, a lot of times I just let AI, hey, give me some options here for here's my main concept, kind of expand on that and write me a prompt that I could use to generate some images. And it's actually better at doing this. It's really a great sort of, it supplements what you are good at and it makes you better, or it can help you, you know, get your brain unstuck and help you with a task that you're having a hard time getting started with. And that's what I mean by finding the things that it can really help you do better, and find those wins that are going to make it just something, irreplaceable. The way
Mm,
that I prompt now for images is just completely different. And I let the AIs really help me do something that is much richer and deeper than I could by myself.
excellent, excellent, excellent.
Yeah, so creativity, I mean, in terms of time saving, of course, there's a lot of tools now that can help you with writing in terms of I often I don't want it to not sound like me. So I want the AIs to be able to, really sound like how I write, or I want to be in control of what I'm writing, but I want the AI to tell me if I missed anything. Is there
Mm,
anything that doesn't make sense about how I'm writing this article? Could I use an example here? And those are some of the things that the AIs can help you do by knowing what kind of questions to ask. And I often use it as a logic checker because I'll write my entire article and say, help me make this better. How
mm,
do I make this, more interesting? Or is there anything that I'm missing? And oftentimes you'll find that it can really help you identify, how you can make something that you've already written a lot better. And that's really powerful because, again, we're not trained to be editors. Perhaps, if you're not trained to be an editor, that's a task that you can really offload to an
mm.
AI, and it can give you some meaningful, wins in getting you further. And in a way, it's also teaching you to how to write better titles,
Exactly.
how to do certain types of editing. It goes beyond like a grammar and spelling checker into the realm of a logic checker or a real editor. So in that sense, it's those kind of wins that I think you should look for, that help you, you'll never be able to come up with 1,000 ideas for like a title for,
Mm,
a YouTube video or something like that. And it does not have a problem. And it does them fast too, faster than you. Again, I've always considered myself a fantastic brainstormer, but the tool is just a lot of ideas is what you want. And that's also the difference I think that you identify in your books, that it's good at coming up with a lot of different ideas, but it's not going to know which is the one that actually works. That's really only something that a human being can do. That emotional intelligence, your ability to evaluate what's good. I think that AIs have, uh, you know, they're capable of doing anything. So when you're capable of doing anything, or you've probably run into this yourself, sometimes you have so many options that you don't know which option to pick. The AIs are good at generating massive amounts of options, but they're not good at understanding the cultural significance of what's happening in the world today. And they're not able to, sort of take that into account. And there's an
yes.
element to humanity that is really unique about our ability to have that true originality, that I don't think AIs are going to be able to do. And it was just makes us really valuable, I think.
Yes. Excellent. Excellent. I'm absorbing all that you're saying and trying to synthesize all this.
Mhm.
A good way to work in tandem with AI when creating an article or an image, or as you said, is first of all to brainstorm. Use the AI to
Mhm.
brainstorm, to find new ideas, to understand the extent of the possible, and
Mhm.
then generating options. So
Mhm.
asking the AI to suggest options so that we humans can choose from those options, maybe refine these options by with the back and forth with the tool, and use the AI as well as a coach to evaluate what we've done,
Mhm.
understanding how we can improve it, and it's also a way for us to improve ourselves and learn from that so that we can improve ourselves. Yes.
I think that
So it's
has
a
been
coach.
one of
It's a
the
coach. It's a coach available, a tutor or a coach that is available to us
yes,
any time of
absolutely.
the day.
It's
And
been a
and
surprise to me that I
yes.
think in some ways the AI is making me better. And I didn't sort of recognize this at first. I thought it was just giving me some good ideas, but in a way, it's trying to guide you into, okay, you say you're trying to come up with a good YouTube video title. It has so much content that it can identify kind of the patterns that I think would work. So after you see those, you're going to start seeing those things differently.
Yeah.
And so that ability of it to sort of show you, um, you know, results that will help you become a better person in some ways and better at some tasks. When you
Yes.
look at when you're having it help you create prompts for like images, when you look at the results, you're going to start to learn, oh wow, I can see what it's doing. And I know now what would make a good prompt. So, it's going to help you, get better at those
Mm.
tasks as well. So that's something
And we
that I
can we
didn't think
can
was
yeah, we can
yeah,
become experts
yeah,
using
mhm,
AI if we're using well, if we're using it well to assess what we do, and if we take the effort of
mhm,
trying to improve ourselves based on those feedback, then we learn, and then we
mhm.
improve ourselves, and we become better experts in what we are doing.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I love is always asking it how I should get started, or, I no longer have that problem that people call writer's block because I can tell the AI, ask me some questions and help me get unstuck and get some ideas as to where to go or how to do this task. So in terms of having somebody to bounce ideas off of, or having the AI help you come up with not necessarily the answers, but getting you to think about different ways of looking at a problem, I think it's really helpful. Plus, you can have
Excellent.
it ask you questions that generate, ideas or concepts. That I think is really life changing. There's a lot of, I cover a lot of technology, so we could talk about, the agentic sort of behavior that is really coming in the next year, or some of the inference, topics that are happening. But I think a lot of times what I'm really passionate about is how it can actually help individuals in all facets of life. And that's part of the stuff that I do with Stanford, is helping people where they come to me with, okay, I want to do this, 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 and I'm in this industry. Help me figure out how to get it to do this, that, and the other. Those are really useful and very valuable. So it can really help you in any in any segment of business or your personal life as well. But you have to
Excellent.
really embrace it, I think, and learn how to use it.
Yes.
And then, as
Yes.
you mentioned so well, I think, is understanding what you're good at and what it's good at, and having it
That's
really be an assistant.
Yeah, very, very good. Very good. What are the tips that you usually give to those people at Stanford
Mhm.
on how to use and how to, yeah, how,
Yeah, I mean, I think I always start with letting them know what the tools are capable of doing. A lot of times
Mhm.
they don't have an understanding of everything that is possible. So I think that, I think I mentioned my first advice would be try to get it to do something useful so that you'll have some great wins. But then
and
just like they
and
teach programmers, yes,
very simple. You can just ask
yeah,
it, what can you do for me? Huh?
exactly. And
And
it will help you. That's
better if
actually a
you add
great
some
prompt.
context. Huh? If you add some context,
Yeah.
this is my role in this company. How can you help me? And yeah,
Yeah, correct. So start there, but then once you have found that it's really helping you in some ways, then start exploring the full capabilities of what the application can do. So for example, most of these tools will have the ability to create different writing styles, and so once you learn that you can have it write differently or help you differently when you're writing a newsletter article versus a YouTube video, or, a letter for one of your customers, those are different styles. I think the styles is something that people don't necessarily think about. And then, there's a lot of stuff happening with memory and how they can start to remember things that you like, or you can give them custom instructions that really help you create customized versions of the tools. So we call those custom GPTs or agents or agentic behavior. So once you learn that, if obviously we all have things that we do that are very different. We're not all writing letters all day. Sometimes we're doing a letter, sometimes we're writing a newsletter article, sometimes we're doing some sort of business function. So spend some time after you have learned some exciting things. Spend some time diving into some of the things that I think will be really useful to you in the future. And I think that it will really surprise you how much more useful the tools can be after you learn kind of the basics. And that's the part where I think, following some people or being in a team environment where people can help each other is really crucial, because um, you always learn more from learning what other people find useful. And I think that happens a lot when I teach. A lot of the I teach these classes all the time, but a lot of the new classes are always based on some issue that somebody had a question about that really helped me understand how
Mm.
this tool can be more useful to them. And so, listen to how other people are solving problems. And I gave you the tip about prompting for image generation and how helpful it is to get it to be creative with the prompts. Maybe that's something that you hadn't heard about before. So that it's so priceless to find what real people working on real problems are ideas and tips that they have. And so much of what I do comes from those ideas. A lot of even the courses that I do on LinkedIn come from somebody mentioned that they wanted to do a specific thing. Why don't I do a course on that? That's actually a great
Mm.
topic. And so
Yeah,
that ability to not just learn from one AI, but learn from sort of the critical thinking and the social connections that you have. They're probably the most important thing in life are the connections that you make. The AIs can help you do tasks, but the connections are going to be what provide opportunities.
exactly, exactly. And that's what we are doing in the irreplaceable community. That's
Yes.
exactly the reason why we created it. Yeah, I love it. Definitely completely align with you on that. And so yeah, you said yeah, being open, identify what you know and what the AI knows,
Hmm.
and how it can help us, and then it's about trying. Huh? I think
Hmm.
that I mean what I found out is if you don't try it, you don't really know how it can benefit you basically.
Hmm.
And because nobody tells you really how good it is at writing or how good it is at doing this thing. Is it complementary to what you can do? And so the only way is to try. And
Yes.
and it's funny, yeah, because even the people who created those GPTs don't even know the full extent of what they can do. And so
Yeah.
so it's only through experiments that you can really nail down new
So true.
ways you can use it.
So true. I can tell you a lot about the mechanics of how these tools work. But every once in a while, I have to stop and think of myself. I understand functionally and mathematically and mechanically and from a programmer standpoint, like how the tools work, but it's just amazing that they're actually able to produce what they're doing. And that's, I think, what
Ex-
you were mentioning, that some
Yeah,
of the
yeah. Those
engineers don't quite
those
understand.
emerging
Yes.
capabilities, huh, we call it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
nobody
The
knows about it.
right.
Only by trying them you can find them.
Hmm.
And even the
Yeah,
yeah
it's pretty
the
amazing.
deepest
And
researchers are amazed by those.
that's surprising, right? That we have this thing that, is able to, like, for example, able to help me program. Like I originally I didn't think, wow, the tool is not going to just make great stories about, for my kids at night. It's actually going to help me program. And it's really surprising. But again, if you think about it, the tools are great at absorbing patterns from different inputs, so language or images or video. And if you think about it, a programming language is a very small sort of subset of English with very specific rules for grammar. So it's really just a language. And
Mm,
so naturally, once you know that they're able to do this, you go, well, it makes sense. All they did was absorb the patterns from the language and or something like a programming language. It's not like when I learned English, it was really difficult because, people misuse language all the time, or it means different things in different
mm,
contexts. And that was really difficult. I remember when people used to say the word couple, like, I'll just be a couple of minutes. I learned that they didn't mean 2 minutes, although that's literally what couple means, right? They meant some, undefined short period of time. And I think it was difficult for me when I was learning it because I would use sometimes I would say blah blah blah. I just need a couple of these. And when I would grab five, they would say, what do you I thought you said a couple. And I went, well, doesn't that kind of mean undefined? And they're like, no, 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 it means two. So it took me a while to learn those kind of things about the language and the way that in different countries, they're used differently, even Spanish. And I
Mm.
lived in many places in South America. So that context was really interesting to learn. But with programming languages, there are no variances. Like the programming language has very strict rules about how they work. So it's actually a really easy for one of these languages to learn. And that's one of the first sort of true changes of computer-human interaction, that these things are really useful as programming agents. But we're seeing them be useful. I mentioned editing, for example, image generation, movie generation, all kinds of other things. I saw that
Yeah.
there's a tool now that
What about
uh,
research?
yeah, that's actually really
Because that's
exciting. So
yeah.
definitely I do run into a lot of people who are researchers and want to know how they can use these tools.
Yes.
That's what's exciting about next year and this whole concept of computer use and agentive
Mhm.
behavior, where you can let the tools have access to a computer that can actually use the mouse and keyboard in the same way that we would. So in one of my courses, I asked one of these tools to do some research for me. So I had a data set from data.gov from closed banks from the FDIC closed. And so what I wanted to see if is it could figure out what the original addresses for those locations were. So that was my task. Okay, just see if you can find, here's a spreadsheet with all the closed banks and when they were closed. So see if you can find what their original addresses were. And sure enough, if it opened up a browser, it would try to look on Google for an address. And then once it found one, it would actually update my spreadsheet. And so we're going to see that sort of behavior be something that is going to really, I think, explode next year.
Yes, yes.
That's going to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And to the people listening to us who are trying to do some research using those current LLMs,
Mhm.
they are limited for that. Huh? The context, the memory that
Mhm.
they have in terms of
Yeah,
capacity
they are
is
very, and
limited,
even depending
and
on the tool too. So,
they might hallucinate. So it's not
yes.
recommended to do that.
Yes, definitely. So there's a lot of different things that happen when you're doing, research yourself. If you're not, using one of these new tools that I'm talking about, you can use something like Perplexity, which is a little bit better.
Yeah,
ChatGPT now has a web search that is
yeah,
pretty good, but you
yeah.
can tell that they limit the results because when you ask anything, it'll give you about 3 or 4 results and then it'll stop.
Yes,
So Google, I think the Gemini product does a pretty decent job because it's Google and they have the probably the best search engine, so it can do a little bit of a better job. But for researching and for basically summarizing content, that's where you really have to worry about accuracy. But that's what makes these other products kind of a little bit exciting because they're able to just use the web or use any
yes,
research tool and connect to databases. So
yes.
yes, super exciting stuff.
So yeah, in short, on that, in short, so those current large language models are limited. So you just mentioned the
Yeah.
different tools.
Yeah,
And I
they're very limited
personally,
in how
I
much you
like
can
to
do.
use Perplexity, but I've seen the recent ChatGPT web search, which is quite useful. But as you mentioned, it's limited to top three
Yeah,
out of five.
there's all kinds of things. So there's the context window. So the amount of so when these tools absorbed the original sort of language to understand the English or whatever other language you're speaking, they learn to make connections in in the language itself. So they have to be limited to a certain date, for example. So they can only grab knowledge until whatever it is for the model,
Mm.
December 2023. Now they can connect to the internet, but that connection is what's a little bit limited. So you shouldn't rely on the trained knowledge. So you want to, as much as possible, either ground them by giving them some data and saying, I want you to look through this document and get me some answers, or you want them to have some sort of live connection to the internet and say, go to this tool, like API or this tool and get some data from that source.
Yes,
And you have to, but you still have to be careful. The accuracy isn't quite there, and the
yes,
sort of it has a problem with remembering things almost.
correct.
There's a limited amount of memory. So those are problems that I think will go away pretty
Yeah,
quickly. And I
yeah,
think that right
yeah.
now what's
Currently,
holding everything back is honestly, I think compute is holding everything back because the models are capable of being better, but it's just that there's not enough energy in the world, and there's not enough compute power available to run some of these kind of more advanced models that require just large amounts of compute time and inference
Mm,
to do work.
yes,
So once that goes away, then I think we're really going to see new capabilities. And I'm talking about the agentic behavior where you can give it, the work of a person to look through things. I think that we're going to see new capabilities. There's so many exciting things happening that it's pretty amazing. But be excited about that. I mean, I think that uh, the internet changed everything. Lots of other tools and technologies changed everything, and I think we're in an exciting time. I'm super excited
yes,
for what that's going to do for medicine. What some of these tools are doing in medicine and research in that sense. They can
yes,
absorb patterns in quantities that humans are just not able to. We're going to
definitely,
see a lot of things happening there as well.
definitely. Well, Ray, we covered a lot of ground.
Great.
We covered
We could go for
yeah,
hours.
from how to use AI, how to have the right attitude vis-a-vis all those new things coming out regularly and bombarding us.
Mhm.
We've talked about how to be creative with AI, how to research with AI, uh, how to embed these tools into our lives and work. Ray, that was really insightful. Thank you so much for your time and
So
for your
happy to be here. It was so much fun, and I really enjoy talking to you. And I was really impressed by the books that you wrote and how they're so forward looking. So I'm really looking forward to your work in the future.
Thank you, Ray. And yeah, coming soon is a book on AI agents, by the way. So
Nice. See, that's what I'm saying.
yeah,
That's good. Those things are going to change the world. And I'm
definitely.
excited for, I don't know what's going to happen next year, but I know it's going to be kind of a pivotal year in AI with all
Yeah,
these new capabilities,
definitely.
getting better and better. So I'm excited. And you should be too.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you, Ray. Talk to you
All right.
soon.
Take care.
And to the audience, see you next time. Thanks for following us.
Mhm.
Cheers.